In this video, we will create an eye-catching login form. You will notice the color and hover effects when hovering your cursor over the form. If you do not have an account, simply click on the sign up link, which will direct you to the sign up form. I will explain the code step by step. The form has a class name, wrapper, and it groups all the form elements together. Inside the wrapper, there's another container named form wrapper sign in, which holds the actual form elements. The form element has an empty action attribute, which makes it submit to the current page when the user clicks the submit button. The form title, login, is written inside the h2 element. There's an input field within the login form, which requires the user to input a value before submitting the form. This input field is of type text. To style the label and input field together, they're wrapped inside a div element having the class name input group. Now create the input group class for password and input type and label will be password. Create input group for checkbox labeled remember me. We will create a remember div element containing a label with the text remember me and a checkbox. Submit button element will be added to submit the login form. We will also create a sign up link div element that contains a paragraph with the text don't have an account and an anchor element with the class name sign up btn link. Now link the CSS file to HTML. Margin and padding sets the margin of all elements to 0, which removes any default spacing around them. Border box changes the box model of all elements to border box, which makes sure that the padding and border widths are included in the element's total width and height, rather than being added to them. Poppins sans serif sets the font family of all elements to Poppins, or a fallback font called sans serif. Display flex sets the display property of the body element to flex, which turns it into a flex container. Justify content centers the flex items horizontally within the body element. Align items centers the flex items vertically within the body element. Min height 100 vh sets the minimum height of the body element to 100% of the viewport height, ensuring that the content fills the entire screen. Sets the background color of the body element to bright cyan. Sets the position relative to its normal position in the document flow. Sets the width of the element to 400 pixels. Sets the height of the element to 500 pixels. Sets the background color of the element to cyan. Box shadow adds a box shadow to the element with a blur radius of 50 pixels and a color cyan. Sets the border radius of the element to 20 pixels, which rounds the corners of the element. Adds 40 pixels of padding to the inside of the element. Overflow hidden hides any content that exceeds the dimensions of the element. Now we are going to style the form wrapper class. Sets the display property of the element to flex, which enables the use of flexbox layout for positioning child elements. Centers the child elements horizontally along the main axis of the flex container. Centers the child elements vertically along the cross axis of the flex container. It sets the font size to 30 pixels, the text color to white, and aligns the text in the center of its container. Add style in input group. It positions the element relatively, adds a margin of 30 pixels to the top and bottom, and creates a 2 pixel thick solid white border on the bottom of the element. It positions the label elements absolutely within the input group container, with the top edge of the label element aligned to the vertical center of the input group. The left edge of the label is 5 pixels from the left edge of the input group container. The transform property with translate y -50% centers the label element vertically, taking into account the height of the label. The font size of the label is set to 16 pixels and the text color is white. The pointer events property is set to none, which means that the label will not respond to mouse events, allowing the input field to be clicked instead. It sets the width of the input element to 320 pixels and the height to 40 pixels. The font size is 16 pixels and the text color is white. The padding property adds space around the text inside the input field, with 0 pixels of padding at the top and bottom and 5 pixels of padding on the left and right. The background property is set to transparent, meaning the background color will be inherited from the container or parent element. The border property is set to none, meaning there will be no border around the input field. The outline property is also set to none, which removes the default outline that appears around an input element when it is clicked or selected. This makes the input element appear cleaner and more minimalistic. It sets a margin of 5 pixels at the top, 0 pixels on the right, 15 pixels at the bottom, and 5 pixels on the left. Styles the class, remember, and sets the color to white and the font size to 14 pixels. Styles the input element inside the label element and sets the accent color to cyan. Now we position the button and set width, height, background color, box shadow, font size, color, font weight, cursor, border radius, border, and outline. The properties aim to create a visually appealing button that is easy to interact with. Add style in Signup link class sets the font size of the text inside the link to 14 pixels. Sets the alignment of the text inside the link to center. Sets the margin above and below the link to 15 pixels and 0 pixels respectively. Add style in the paragraph tag inside the link. Sets the color of the text inside the paragraph tag to white. Add style in the anchor tag inside the paragraph tag. Sets the color of the text inside the anchor tag to a shade of blue-green. Removes the underline decoration from the anchor tag. Sets the font weight of the text inside the anchor tag to 500, which is a bold font weight. Now change the color in wrapper class, create shadow around it and remove previous one which was wrong. You can see the modern login form has created. Create hyperlink elements with the Signup link class and applies an underlined text decoration to the hyperlink when it is being hovered over by the user's mouse. Add properties in the input feed. When the user click on it, then it will be moved up by 5 pixels, indicated by the top -5px property. When the input element has valid input, the label element following it will also be moved up by 5 pixels. Add transitions that will transform property with a duration of 5 seconds. Now simply copy the form wrapper sign in class and paste it inside the wrapper div class and change the text in order to create Signup form. Link the JavaScript file to HTML with this line of code. This line of JavaScript code selects an HTML element with the class name of sign_in_btn_link and assigns it to a constant named sign_in_btn_link using the document.querySelector method. Now create two constants for sign_up_btn_link and wrapper. This code sets up an event listener for a click event on an HTML element, and when that element is clicked, it toggles the active class on another HTML element using the class list toggle method. In the same way, create an event for sign in btn link. Now jump on CSS file and set the width and height of wrapper class in order to set input content. Now move an element with class sign in by changing its vertical position on the screen. Specifically, when the parent element with class wrapper also has the class active, the sign in element will be moved upward by 450 pixels, as defined by the translate y function with a negative value. This effect may be used to create animations or transitions in a web page, such as revealing a hidden login form or sliding in a pop-up window. Form wrapper, that is a child of an element with class wrapper, and also has the class signup. When the parent element with class wrapper also has the class active, this CSS code positions the form wrapper element absolutely with respect to the nearest positioned ancestor, in this case the wrapper element. The top property sets the distance between the top edge of the form wrapper element and the top edge of the wrapper element to 450 pixels, and the left property sets the distance between the left edge of the form wrapper element and the left edge of the wrapper element to 0 pixels. This effect may be used to create a fixed or floating element that appears at a specific position on the screen, regardless of the scrolling or resizing of the page. Targets an element with class form wrapper, that is a child of an element with class wrapper, and also has the class signup. When the parent element with class wrapper also has the class active, this CSS code applies a transformation to the form wrapper element using the translate y function with a negative value of 450 pixels. Transition effect will last for 1 second, as specified by the once value, and will use the ease in out timing function, which makes the transition start slowly, speed up in the middle, and then slow down again at the end. Now add hover animation effect for an element with a class of wrapper. When the user hovers over this element, the animate animation is triggered and will continue to play indefinitely until the user stops hovering over the element. This animation is defined using the @keyframes, which sets up a sequence changes to occur over time. In this case, the animation consists of a single keyframe at 100%, which sets the filter property to hue rotate 360 degree. This means that the element's color hue will be rotated by 360 degrees, effectively returning it to its original color. Overall, this creates a simple but eye-catching animation effect that could be useful for highlighting or drawing attention to certain elements on a web page. If you want to see more programming videos, then please like and subscribe my channel.